Pizza time. Welcome to Camaraderie, a channel dedicated to bad vibes and even worse photography. This video is sponsored by this deck of Las Vegas brand casino quality playing cards. If you've watched any of my previous trip videos, you should know the drill by now. Sit back, grab something to drink or eat or whatever, and just chill for a bit. Just stay a while and listen. The other week, my brother Clint and I were overcome with, let's call it a empire state of mind. So we took a trip to New York City, New York. The trip was arranged like a reverse mullet. Party in the front, business in the back. The first half of the trip was dedicated to getting up to New York and spending a few days in what can only be described as the exact opposite of a sensory deprivation tank. Minute, yeah. Lots of horns. All the ambiance. The second half of the trip, we would make our way to Garden City on Long Island for the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo. Clint drove up to my neck of the woods in Richmond, Virginia, and we'd be taking a train before the crack of dawn the next morning, but we thankfully had a few hours to chill and just ponder the rock tomato. It's a pretty decent tomato. Yeah. The best thing about traveling by train is basically all of it. We just showed up 30 minutes before the train left, and we really could have gotten there like 5 minutes early, but it'd probably been like decades since either of us had taken a train, so we weren't too sure what to expect. Yeah, it's not as fast as a plane, but it's generally cheaper and can be as fast as or faster than driving, at least on the route that we took. A few hours up the tracks, we stopped for about 15 or 20 minutes in DC so they could switch the engine over from diesel to electric. It was a nice chance to stretch the legs and take a few shots. After getting through DC and then Baltimore, the stops at random podunk stations were fewer and farther between, so we ended up making pretty good time. Around 1 o'clock or so, we finally disembarked at Penn Station and were promptly greeted by the laid-back atmosphere and sweet, melodious sounds of the Big Apple. The first order of business was to get to our hotel for the first few days, the Arlo Nomad. It's a nice place, very clean. Rooms were pretty small, but the beds were comfy and the place has character. Maybe too much character. If you know, you know. I'm honestly surprised they charge by the night instead of by the hour. I'll leave it at that. Hey, you said that you didn't know how long you were going to be out, man. You brought this on yourself.
I'm just saying, man. Let's get a slice of pizza.
After a quick slice, it was time to just wander around and get a bit lost in the sauce, so to speak. Not the pizza sauce, just like the sauce of it all, the New York City sauce. There is so much going on in New York all of the time. It's honestly insane. It's immense. I thought I had a pretty good handle on what to expect from metropolises due to the amount of time in Chicago that I've spent, but my god, New York is a different beast. Everything seems like it's at 10 all the time. Yeah, so I settled into it pretty quickly though. First real stop was a pilgrimage to the videographer's holy land, B&H Photo. It's a bit nondescript from the outside, but inside it's like a Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for camera people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It feels like I'm back in the subway.
I know, man. All the orders and stuff coming through.
Oh yeah. All like video editing areas. Dude. All the specialty Blackmagic keyboards and a few people with those.
Large format camera.
So I got like all the Leicas.
The belly of the beast.
So it goes.
Bacon jelly with some yeast. I don't like that. I was running a bit low on 120 film for my 645 and thought I'd grab a few extra rolls of 35 just to be safe. So of course I ended up spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $450 on film, so I should be, there's a shelf back there, I should be pretty good on film for a while, so. It's a lot, it's a lot, dude, we priced the brick on our booth. It was a quick jaunt back to the Arlo to reorganize and figure out what we were doing for the rest of the first night there. There's something about being that high up in the city and it starts raining and it's just, it's a mood, it's a vibe, it's awesome. It's wild how different it is just 3 floors down. We found our way to the currently under renovation Flatiron building, and I didn't get the Stieglitz shot that I was looking for, but it's such a wonderful piece of architecture that it's really hard to get a bad shot of it, in my opinion. I'm sure you could if you really tried, or didn't try, but I was neither trying nor not trying to get a bad shot. So it was starting to get towards early evening, and with the sky already overcast, I figured it'd be a good time to load up some Lomo 800. From there, we skirted through Chelsea, awful football club by the way, and made our way through like West Village, Greenwich Village area. Maybe it's just because it's related to my job, or I've just consumed so much media set in this part of the city, but I genuinely enjoyed the stoops and seeing the brownstone row houses. After Greenwich Village, it was kind of startling to find ourselves stepping out onto the Hudson River Greenway. Until now, my time in New York City had just been concrete, steel, glass, brick, pavement, people, and pigeons. But then, water. Salty air. The sunset. And the Loch Ness Monster. Or, sorry, no, that's just a duck. It was a welcome reprieve. We carb-loaded at Osteria Nonino, and we're probably still in a caloric deficit for the day from the mileage that we put in. It's around 9 miles or so. On that note, we were pretty toast from being up at 4:30 that morning, so we just Ubered back the Arlo instead of walking an extra couple miles. Because it just, no. We've already done so much. And tomorrow was also going to be a long day, so yeah, we just Ubered back to the hotel. Grabbed a quick bevy in the hotel diner bar thing that they have down there, and just put our feet up for the rest of the evening. The first order of business the next morning was to grab a genuine New York bagel from some random hole in the wall, as one does in New York City, as it should be. I assume, I don't know, I've only been there once, but it felt right. It's no Bruegger's, but it's pretty good. I'll give them that. We hopped on the subway to go up about 20 blocks or so to get to Central Park. Out of all the places we saw in New York, I think the outskirts of the park reminded me the most of Chicago. There's something about just a little pocket of nature surrounded by skyscrapers and old architecture. The surroundings, that's pretty much where the comparisons end. Because, once again, like everything else in New York, it's freaking massive. It's just insane how big it is. It's like almost 900 acres or something like that. And yeah, I don't know. I also didn't expect to feel like I just walked onto the set of Birdman. But there I was. At Bethesda Terrace, I managed to take maybe my favorite shot of the whole trip. Definitely up there, at least. It's a good thing, too, because that was the last shot of my roll of Ilford Phoenix 200, and actually the last shot on my Nikon F2 for a while. The film advance lever got stuck somehow, and yeah, I was relegated to just shooting with my Pentax 645 for a while until I could figure out what was going on, or maybe it would be the rest of the trip, which I wouldn't have been mad about.
Exactly what I was thinking. Like, where's my...
Looks like they're swimming in the ooze. They are.
Yeah, six pointers over there. Like this. The slimy guys. Yeah, these aren't Canadian geese. They're like fully just chilled out.
So close. Lots of turtles. One camera.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to take to that sound.
Sadness. At least the turtles were fun.
At a certain point in the park, it just feels like you're in the woods, which is wild to me. You can't see any buildings, and the sounds of the city fade to a whisper. We got some bubble tea outside of the Met to cool down, and then hopped back on the subway to go back to the hotel for a classic midday break.
Man, it's a hot one. This is like comparable to some of the worst Chicago days, honestly.
The temps were already pushing the mid-90s, and the heat index, plus the whole urban island heat effect thing, like, yeah, it was pretty brutal. Actually, no. Clint went back to the hotel. made my way to Home Depot to try and find some precision screwdrivers to hopefully help me out, to help me figure out what was going on with my Nikon F2. So I was also just curious what a hardware store in a place like Manhattan would even be like. As far as I'm aware, they're generally in massive shopping plazas with more parking area than floor space. And I'd never really considered that, yeah, people in a metropolis need a hardware store too. And I never really thought about like the logistics of that. Like every place we went, it's similar to this in Chicago, but like I really noticed it in New York. Like, you know, you go to a Best Buy or a Macy's or Home Depot, and it's just in like this insane, cool old building. You just gotta walk or take a train there. It's, I don't know. I enjoy that. Let's see if I can get my Nikon F2 to actually work. I hope it's not totally screwed, but we'll see. Alright, so I saw a video where it's like, you know, sometimes one of the little mechanisms that hooks in there just doesn't do it. So you have to like take the bottom plate off and like just move things just a little bit just to get it back in order, right? So I got some precision tools and a precision little screwdriver set thing. And yeah, this was the smallest one, and it's too big for these little screws. So I got one of them out, and then like accidentally just torqued the other one, threaded them, I don't know, whatever that term is, but so I was like, alright, I really don't know, I'm just gonna have to go without my F2 for the rest of the trip. But I was like, I don't really, what are these couple things? So I was pushing this down and that didn't do anything, and then I was just kind of like, well, that's like, that thing right there looks like it's connected to the take-up reel and all that, and the shutter advance. And yeah, I literally just like moved that. I just jiggled it a little bit and it came loose. And look at that. I have an advancing film camera again. And the shutter releases. What a great day. After resurrecting my Nikon F2, we popped up to the rooftop bar of the hotel for a couple light drinks and some panoramic city views. A key difference I started noticing around this time between Chicago and New York City. In Chicago, I feel like I always have the opportunity to look up, and in New York, I feel like I'm always compelled to look ahead. So it's a subtle difference, but it's something that greatly shaped the photos I was able to get. I'd also told myself to experiment more with zone focusing on this trip, and that combined with feeling like I couldn't stop and take my time made for some pretty subpar images overall, in my opinion. I already want to go back to New York though, and just approach it with a more familiar, measured approach. I said approach twice, don't worry about it. It's closer to what how I normally like to shoot, but for whatever reason, I just tried like 3 different things in new place, and they just, I don't know. I got some good shots, but a lot of them I'm not crazy about. We wanted to visit the New York Public Library, made famous by Roland Emmerich's seminal work The Day After Tomorrow, but it was closed due to a private event, from what we could gather. A pretty sweet setup at 30 Rock for watching the Summer Olympics. Yeah, it was just kind of like a free-flowing little like street party watching the U.S. just absolutely dominate in the medal count. I kind of wish we'd stayed there a little bit longer, but you know, we had pavement to pound. So,
You know what this reminds me of? You remember the Devolver Digital like pop-up event at E3 with this like they just put all these like random little games and drinks and like tables and the fake grass underneath the Rockefeller. Hey, there's your lobster.
Hey, my lobsters.
So just odd corridors.
By the time we got through the underbelly of 30 Rock and got some drinks and sushi at the Urban Hawk 2 food hall, dusk was well and truly upon us. It's time to load up some 800 speed film and step into the sheer sensory overload of Times Square. Just a random Monday in August. There's nothing special going on, and it was still that bonkers. obviously, I had to go into the Pele store, and it was hard for me to not spend at least as much as I had at B&H.
Pretty amazing, dude. That's amazing, actually.
But no, I just got the shirt that I saw at the front of the store. And they had kits from the Premier League, the Ligue 1, Serie A, the Turkish Super League, Bundesliga, Brasileiro Serie A, Liga MX, I don't know if I already said that. And they were all customizable. It was so cool. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how, like, a lot of football club stores are. Like, if you go to their stadiums, I'm pretty sure that's, like, you know, they customize them in the store right there for you. But, like, I don't know. I've never seen something like that over here. Or anywhere, because I haven't been over there, so, yet. I don't think it's any surprise that some of my favorite shots of the entire trip came from Times Square. It's just such a wild, it's just a silly place. It's so over the top, and it's a mood too at night. Like, I wouldn't want to be there all the time, or even New York City all the time, but it's a fascinating place. There's a million lights, a million people, a million languages being spoken, just a million little stories. It's just super easy to get good shots. Like, everywhere you look, there's something happening. And even stuff that you, like, don't see when you take the shot, you go back and look at it, and you see these little moments and these little stories. And yeah, it was just like a crazy melting pot of a little place, even though it's a glorified tourist trap, right? But there was something like magnetic about it. I don't know if that's the right word, but there was just something that just like clicked whenever I was in Times Square, and I loved it. I didn't expect that. I always thought Times Square would just be absolute mayhem, and it was, but like, you don't have to worry about like feeling awkward or anything, like taking people's pictures, because like, one, everybody there is already taking pictures of everything, so you don't really stand out. And even if you were to like, I don't know, have like an awkward like look from somebody, you just disappear into the mass of people. And yeah, I don't know, I could spend days just shooting Times Square. Yeah, I was not expecting that. Like, Manhattan in general is a street photographer's paradise. Like, you're just an NPC to them. Walked back towards the Arlo, grabbed some essentials, and settled in for the night.
Solid, dude. Quality. The worst elevators in the world. Look, let me press that and it went all the way up to the top. This one's finally coming down. A couple of minutes later.
Next morning was rough. probably due to the 12 miles of walking the day before and not drinking enough water combined with the aforementioned essentials. But by golly, we had plans to meet with one of Clint's friends over in Brooklyn, and, well, we just had to get going. After all, there's no sleep till Brooklyn. Well, there was. We didn't pull an all-nighter, but I'm not proud of that one. But it was there. It was just there. So I make no apologies. So we needed to get a ferry from the end of Wall Street, but after we took the subway to the Brooklyn Bridge City Hall station down in that area, we had a little time to kill, so we wandered over to Ground Zero. It's hard to describe, but it is a genuinely humbling experience. I don't personally know anybody who was lost that day or anything, but that was such a pivotal moment in my childhood and in history as a whole. So to see the scale of everything and just be in the presence of that area, yeah, it made for quite a somber, reflective experience. Once we got to Wall Street, the coffee and water I'd chugged to compensate for the previous evening was starting to put some major pressure on my bladder. I had to find a place to relieve myself. That'll do quite nicely. took the ferry from Pier 11 across the East River and got off in Red Hook. We met up with Clint's friend Michael, who was kind enough to treat us to lunch at a Southern-style barbecue. Now, the meat itself was great. It's pretty well. It was really, really good. But the sauce selection had quite a bit to be desired, as a couple of North Carolina boys. But, you know, not a bad attempt for a bunch of Yankees. After a couple hours of catching up and chatting about all sorts of stuff, it was back to Manhattan. We didn't do too much else that day. The last few days had taken it out of us, and it started raining like crazy, so we caught up on lots of Olympic action and chowed down on some spectacular Chinese food. Thus began our last full day in Manhattan. And Clint had actually woken up feeling kind of gunky, I guess just from all of the everything. So between that and the fact that we had the expo coming up, he just decided to kind of take it easy that morning and rest up for a bit and actually get started on some editing, because Lord knows we had a lot of footage to go through. I hopped on the subway, though, to go back to Brooklyn, specifically the neighborhood of Bushwick. And I got there. Eventually. I took the wrong connecting train across the river from Manhattan. I was supposed to take the 6 line south, which I did, and then get on the J line, I think. But instead I got on the R line or something. Like, even the signage was really not clear. Like, it was like J, R, W, and Z go to this platform. And then, like, I didn't see anything else, so I just got on the train, and then it was like, well, nope. I was looking at my map app while I was going, and I was like, I'm going basically back to where we were yesterday. I don't know, man. The Chicago Metro to me just makes a lot more sense. It's a lot easier to follow on the maps. Anyways, I proudly gave up at one point and took an Uber to where I was actually going. Photodom, a black-owned local analog camera supply store. I first heard about it on an episode of Analog Talk, I think like a month or two before they opened, and have wanted to visit ever since. I kind of went overboard at B&H, so I didn't get a whole lot, but I grabbed a few rolls of film and some merch, because they're dope, and I want to support what they're doing. They're doing great things for the community there, and yeah, stop by if you find yourself in the neighborhood. It was around 12 or maybe 1 or so. Clint and I moseyed on up to the Museum of Modern Art. We'd considered hitting up the Met, but they were closed. I don't know what it is with us and museums being closed the first time we're trying to go somewhere, but it seems to be a pattern.
here is weird.
I think my favorite pieces there were the massive Pollux, just on display for everyone to see. Dolly's The Persistence of Memory had to be up there though. And Starry Night, of course, but the line to see it was like the Mona Lisa. I couldn't really see it without a ton of people in the way, and you could only be at the front of the queue for a few seconds. It was still really cool, though. And we got to see another installation by Sir Isaac Julian. We were first introduced to his stuff, at least I was. I can't speak for Clint, but I'm pretty sure he's the same. We were first introduced to his work at LACMA, the LA County Museum of Art, back in 2019 when his take on Playtime was on display. And this work was a pseudo-biopic sort of thing of Frederick Douglass, told across 10 screens at once. It was quite an immersive, thought-provoking experience.
That seemed cool. Right fluid, right model.
We had a date with Broadway later in the afternoon / early evening, and, well, what do you know? An 8-time Tony Award-winning musical hosted at the Walter Kerr Theater was actually incredible. Who'd have thought? Almost as good as my high school's production of West Side Story. Almost. Hades Town is a modern telling of the Greek tragedy of Orpheus and Eurydice with a decidedly New Orleans twist. And just all the roses to all the people involved. It was incredible set designs, incredible music. I cracked up, I cried, I fell in love with everyone on stage because that's how theater works on me. It made me realize how much I truly miss the theater. Porter, please stop chewing right now. Afterwards, we spent a little more time in Times Square since it was, well, right there, and we only had one more night to suck the marrow out of the bones of New York City. cap off the evening, we had the most mid-bodega pizza shop deli thing experience for supper. The less said about that, the better. It was time to rest up, reset, and get ready for the impending madness of the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo.
Well, New York City, you've been great. All packed up, ready for Long Island for a long weekend of long.
Next morning, we checked out of the Arlo around 12, but we still had a bit of time to kill before heading out of town. We walked over to Friedman's for a spot of brunch, and while it was delicious, I just can't really get behind any place that uses bone-in chicken for their chicken and waffles. It's too, like, sure, it's... God made boneless chicken for a reason. And it was for chicken and waffles. Like, it was good, it was great, don't get me wrong, but you gotta work for your meat if you're gonna have bone-in chicken on your chicken and waffles. I don't get it, man. We checked out Penn Station for a bit, got tickets for the train to Long Island, went back to the Arlo to get our luggage, and about an hour later we arrived at the Marriott, close to the Cradle of Aviation Museum, which is where the expo is being held. There's actually room to, like, put things and not have to step over everything. It's amazing. What we got here? Got some drawers. Mini fridge still. You know. Looks like we got some IO stuff over there. Nice. Some Olies on the TV.
Your TV on when you came in? Dude, mine, as soon as I got in, it was like quiet, right? And all of a sudden it was like, welcome to Marriott! I'm like, oh crap! Oh!
I think it was already just on.
Yeah, mine was already on, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And then I did. It was a little unnerving. I thought somebody was in here. You see this thing?
Yeah, it did.
How weird is that, right? Like having like VGA and composite video and like, I think it connects to the TV, but I don't know. I saw it last year and I was like, man, I wish I had something to test that.
The show itself didn't start till 4 p.m. the next day, but we Ubered over to meet up with Ryan, who I think was the showrunner, who gave us the lay of the land while things were still being set up.
This is where the panels. So it'd be cool to like show. Yeah, let's get up there if you can do a video.
Where we run, we'll call them more intimate panel sessions.
Okay.
If you looked at it an hour ago, science lab,
Yeah.
experiments and tables, and we kind of set that aside and set our presentation. So,
Yeah.
that's so many great content. Yeah.
This in
is also
particular?
wonderful.
Yeah, dude.
Like every shot you see us in a promotional is usually the vendor room with the jet.
Right here, right? Anatoly's burden. Oh my goodness. That corner, and then like up here. Because I don't remember like it's just the Dreamcast stuff up there, so it won't be like a ton of foot traffic compared to here. I just remember trying to get some shots here last year and it being like so much foot traffic that it was hard to. Little spot right here. And there. Oh yeah. It's kind of natural.
For a dedicated look at the entire expo experience, Clint's got his full video over on LGR, his main channel, and he's also got like a little travel vlogish sort of thing on his Blurbs channel, so go check those out if you want his side of things and like the whole expo thing. Now that's a lazy gamer if I've ever seen one. I've got to say, this was one of the best shows I've been to, and it was a treat to be able to shoot it. It's somewhere on the spectrum between like VCF that we've done the last few years and E3, which we did about like 5 years ago. It's much more than just the vintage computers that you find at VCF and all the wonderful things that they can do, but it's not the all-out like modern gaming insane extravaganza that E3 was, which I'm grateful for because E3 was a lot. It was a lot of fun, but it was a lot. And this show focuses on the whole range of specifically retro gaming and all the fandoms and hobbies that go along with it. You had game and merch vendors selling their wares, double dash tournaments, an arcade hall, LAN setups, pinball, cosplay contests, panels, and so much more. All held in an aviation museum that provided an incredible backdrop for the whole weekend. And just like that, it was over. Time to fly back to Richmond and reacclimate to the real world. Well, we're back in the South now. It was kind of a reverse culture shock in a way. Like, all of a sudden, the constant, sense-numbing thrum of the city that I'd become pretty accustomed to was just suddenly replaced by the whirring of cicadas. Thank you to everyone who came out to the show and said hello, stopped by the booth and bought some merch, and just everyone in general who just attended the show. Y'all made it a pretty special experience. And thank you to everyone who made the show happen, everyone who involved from the setup to the teardown and everything in between. I really want to go back, not even just to shoot it. I mean, I would love to film it again, but like, it's absolutely a show I would just go to by myself just to attend. That would be awesome. Maybe someday. And also, thank you to Clint. I love doing these shows with you, man. Looking forward to the next one, wherever and whenever that one is. And thank you for watching. I'll be here on this side of the lens in the next video. So until then, see ya!